ways. um, I always joke and I tell my host, I said, you know what, I'm the easiest guy you'll ever interview. All you got to do is say, hey, what's your name? And then all you got to do is get up,
Yeah,
come back a
I
couple
see
hours
that.
later, and I've done the interview
Uh-huh.
for you.
Yes, yes. I saw that watching a lot of your other interviews that like they didn't really have to do too much. It is, I mean, I wrote the question just in case, but
Yeah,
they
no worries.
much, yeah. All right, so let me take my glasses off so I can.
What's funny is I've always been an introvert growing up. I'm very quiet, and then somewhere in my 30s, I started coming out of my shell, and now you can't shut me up. You want to put me back in the shell, and I won't go.
That sounds a lot like me. Actually, it sounds a lot like me in my 30s when I started coming out.
Yeah, I think that's what they call it growing up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, watching your videos and stuff, man, it's amazing how much philosophy we have in common and things that you say and stuff. I mean, I learned a great deal from just following you before I ever reached out to you.
Yeah.
Following you, look, especially when you talk about manhood, being a man, all them things, and it's amazing your military career, and it's just astonishing. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, no problem. So let me get ahead and I'll start reading, and you can just hop in anytime.
Okay.
All right. So this is Alexander Mobley from the Body of Believers Unified. Being in our organization is virtual on social media platforms quite a bit. So that's a good thing for me because every once in a while, on a rare occasion, I come across an extraordinary individual. When I do, I follow these people, study them, see how they became what they are. I view these as visual guides, mentors. And today we have the honor of interviewing one of these rare individuals. We are honored to have a true American hero in every sense of the word, an entrepreneur, a leader, a family man, a man amongst men, Dale Comstock. Comstock, sorry.
No worries.
All right. So the first question I got, I think you have an extensive list of accomplishments as a veteran in the U.S. military. But through the years, for my own personal growth, I learned to look at people as trees. What I see currently is like a branch, or good or bad or negative, but branches of people. But I like to learn to deal with people and work with people better, the complete picture. So I like to learn the roots of a person. So in your opinion, like, what are the roots and the foundation that molded you into the man you are today?
Yeah. Okay. Great question. So just a little bit of a background for the listeners out there. My father was in the Army for 20 years, and I grew up in the military culture. I spent a good part of my childhood growing up in Germany. My mother's German, and my dad went in the Army with he didn't even finish high school. He had 11th grade education. My mom had a 9th grade education, and so I'm used to the military culture, and so I got very used to that culture, and to the point where when I was almost 18, 17, of all things, my dad retired out of Fort Huachuca, Arizona, and we ended up moving to San Francisco because he got a job there with an electronics firm. He had a background in radio communications in the military, and I just thought, it was really a culture shock for me and my family, believe it or not, to move to San Francisco. The military culture is very different from the civilian culture, and for a kid that grew up in that culture all his life, this was like, a shock to me. And I had a very difficult time assimilating. And it sounds kind of strange, but it really is. It's true, because I think military kids, just by virtue of the fact in their association with the military, their fathers or mothers that are in the military, you kind of cultivate the same type of mindset. The same time of discipline, regimentation, those types of things that we hold valuable in the military. And so being outside of that, outside of that culture, outside that life, I just felt very uncomfortable. And all I could think about was, how do I get back into that life, that culture? And the only answer was join the military and go back to it. Right. So I did, much to my father's disappointment, because up to that point, nobody on my mother or my father's side had ever gone to college. Poor family on both sides. And my father wanted me to be the first, one to go get his college degree. He wanted to be proud of his son. And I knew that, but I also knew I was a horrible student. Somewhat my own fault. The other part was I spent a lot I went to 4 different high schools in 4 different years, and always moved in the middle of the school year. So it was very difficult for me to assimilate. And so my grades were terrible. And I almost didn't want to make friends because I wasn't sure how long I was going to get to keep them before I moved again. And so I decided the best course of action for me was join the military. So I did. I snuck down to a recruiter's office. Unbeknownst to him, I signed up. Then I told him, and I realized I broke his heart. I know what he wanted for me, and so I had no choice. But I'm going to the military now. I signed up, but I did promise him that I would earn my college degree for him, nonetheless. And it was, it was for him, but it was also for me. I know that. But I wanted my father to be proud. And so why that was so important to me is my parents were good parents. I had a good father and a good mother. They were married for 50 something years before my father passed away. We were the nuclear family, so to speak, and it's just me and my sister who were a year apart. And so I had good representation as far as parents were concerned. They were great parents, a great father. And because of that, it was very important to me that I did not disappoint them, particularly my dad, because I identified with my father as a man. And so I found that I spent a good portion of my life, especially in the military, all my performance was with the goal of actually making my father proud. Right. So I wanted my dad to know that he didn't fail as a father. I wanted him to know that you could be proud of his son. And I did get my college degree, by the way. I got my bachelor's and my master's degree while in the Army. And believe it or not, so in the Army for 20 years, I was an infantryman, paratrooper in 82nd, a long-range reconnaissance scout. I was a Green Beret, and I was a Delta Force operator for 20 years. And by the way, I was married, I had kids, and I managed to put myself through college at the same time, which was a very difficult feat considering I was always traveling on the road doing Army stuff, and I still managed to find time, burn the midnight oil, whatever it took to get those degrees. And it wasn't just for my father, it was for my self-betterment and particularly for my family to give them a better life down the road. So that's kind of a little bit of a background. So, what's really important here, the takeaway is, my father, right? My father was central to my success, because he was a good father and he was there for me and he raised me properly. And all I wanted to do is return that love that he gave me by being the best that I could possibly be. And so, it is important that fathers be out there for their children and be the good example like my dad was. And I've tried to do the same for my kids. My son, in fact, we just talked about him a minute ago. He's actually at the pool right now, but he's 33 now, and he's a Green Beret. He's an Army Airborne Ranger. He's got 2 bachelor's degrees. He's been very successful, and he's physically super fit. He's just a stud all the way around. And I'm very proud of him, because of that. And I'll take some credit for raising him, but what I did was I feel like I nurtured him the right way, like my dad nurtured me, to allow him to be the man that he is. And he's a great father, a great husband, a great soldier. And, and again, it's very important, I think, that fathers out there, man, set the best example they can, not just for their sons, but for their daughters. My oldest daughter, his sister, she's 36. We're actually business partners. She also has 2 bachelor's degrees. She's an entrepreneur, does very well. And so I've got a business relationship with my daughter. I got a military relationship with my son. I've actually got several other daughters as well that are a little bit younger. But, again, I feel that what made the difference, not only in my life, but in their life, is the mentorship that I was willing to do and make for them, right? To set the right example. Am I perfect? Hell no. But I tried to set the right example. So that kind of segues into another area where people ask me, Comstock, how were you able to do so many things in life? And
plenty of times. Right.
Yeah. So it really, the way I was able to do that is because I realized how important it was to not only be the best version of myself, but set the best example for my kids. And so I've raised the bar extremely high, and I've done that on purpose because I've always told my kids, your job in life is to be better than me, and your job in life is to raise your kids to be better than you. And it has to be that way generation after generation. And that's the only way the family Comstock will rule the earth. No,
Right.
but
That's right. That's right.
but so again, it's all about parenting and and doing the right thing and bringing better people into this world, not a bunch of crybabies and losers and thugs and criminals. Man, it doesn't have to be that way, and it starts at home.
I believe 100% in what you just said. I also had a very strong mother and father. And I can't tell you how much I am today of them because of the foundation that they gave me. I think that's so awesome, man. I can't wait to show this video. We ain't even finished yet, but I can't wait to show this video to young men and women that we're going to be working with.
And let me add something while we're on this topic real quick, because I think it's important that I highlight this, especially in in today's atmosphere and what's going on in our country. It's a sad state of affairs. This whole racism thing that's going on, all the crap that we're listening to and on the news, and people trying to politically influence us, pit us against each other. It really is a sad state of affairs. But I want people to understand something. I'm assuming your audience is a certain demographic primarily because of your background.
Yes, absolutely. So, primarily, but I'm everywhere, but not yet. They're not big as I want to be. Go ahead.
Yeah, and
that's why this interview is so important. I really believe that's why I'm so grateful you did this, because it's going to take to heal this country people coming across, that has similar connections or similar values, and really expressing and communicating with each other.
Yeah, and so. First of all, let's be honest. I'm white, right? Yeah. I'm not going to pretend to be anything else. And although actually I'm German and my father's of English descent, my mother's German descent, and I actually have Cherokee blood in me as well. But, I don't run around going, I'm a German American or British English American or Cherokee, whatever, right? I'm just an American, man. It's got nothing to do with my skin color or the origins of my family or anything like that, right? I don't want to be labeled, and I don't want to go, hey, I'm different from you guys, and I don't want you to see me any different than, what I really am as an American, right? So we're all Americans, first of all. Secondly, so people kind of get a little shocked when I tell them this, but and I've been married several times. I'm not bashful about that. And that kind of comes with the job and being in special forces and always traveling, things like that. But my ex-wives are black. Okay. My children are black. I have Asian children, literally, and Hispanic children, because I have an Asian wife right now. And actually my wife is Indonesian and Muslim. Go figure. I'm Catholic. And she's Indonesian. And prior to that, my wife was Hispanic, Panamanian, and I have a daughter from her as well. So I've got kind of an international family, if you will. It's a collection of ethnicities. I can't even barely get that out, but
so it's life,
so it's a blended. I have a blended family, right? Culturally, racially, religiously, and nobody has any more or any less value to me. And it's not about culture. It's not about color. It's not about any of that, man. It's just about, about love and accepting each other as human beings. Right. So I do get, people call me a racist, because, and now it's a fad to call you a racist just because you were white or whatever. Right. So, and what I'm putting out there,
used a lot.
yeah, and what I'm putting out there is, you can't believe all the crap that's out there. You can't believe what people are saying. I'm a walking example of diversity. I don't consider myself special. I don't think I'm better than anybody else. But what I do hold valuable to me, and it's the greatest value, is individual merit. You're right. And taking responsibility and being accountable for your successes and your failures. And it's nobody's fault but yours. Okay. And when you can learn to do that, then you're going to be successful. But as long as we go through life blaming everybody else for our shortcomings, then you're never going to move forward. And so, again, as I mentioned a minute ago, my kids are very successful. They are of mixed ethnicity, Black, Asian, Hispanic. And it's not about skin color. They were never They didn't get ahead because I'm white. Actually, what's kind of funny is my my son's in special forces, and nobody knows I'm his father for the most part.
Oh,
Right?
because yeah, he is darker than you. He's a lot darker.
Yeah, and not only that, he wanted to make sure that his path was he
On his own.
on his own, right, and not on my back in my shadow, right, which is perfect. And he's done that, right. He's proven that his worth and his value and what he has is grit, to be the best that he can be. Had nothing to do with me. So, and that's what was intended for all my kids is be your own person, be successful, but hopefully you've learned some things, at least from me that you, at least through my performance, you saw that, okay, this is
by example. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, what's funny is I'm going to go back to my son again. Right. So at one point he wanted to, when he's getting out of high school, my dream was for him, just like my dad, to go to college and get his doctoral degree, right? That's really what I wanted from him. And what's the old adage, that you hear all the time, a mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Yes, yes.
And in this case, he had a very high IQ. He did very well in school. He was the captain of the sports teams, the president, I mean, it was amazing, right? And I thought, man, he needs to keep going and get to the highest level, of academia, and so I remember at one point he entertained the idea of joining the Marine Corps. I go, no, not no, but hell no, right? I said, you're going to college.
Army family.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then the Marines of all things, right? Like, really? And so he ended up going to college, did very well. Was on track to, he kind of changed his degree around a little bit. It was biology, animal science, he wanted to be a veterinarian, then, maybe get into, be a doctor and whatever. So what happened was he saw me on television one time. It was actually on Discovery Channel. I ended up on there on a TV show called One Man Army. And I remember one day.
I've seen that. I watched that show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotta look at the episode when you on there. Yeah, I watched that show. Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember what episode it was, but, But he said basically, he goes, "That's it, Dad. I'm joining the Army." And I knew I couldn't stop him at that point. But he had his degrees, and I go, "Well, maybe you're not a doctor, but you got a couple of bachelor's degrees, and and I feel like at least he was prepared for life, especially outside the military when that time comes, And so he did. He went in and went into special forces and went to the Ranger School and doing the things he's doing now. So. But yeah, that's so. Anyways, I just want to kind of put that out there to kind of no pun intended, but that kind of add color to my history and my experience.
Yes, very, very much so. I'm glad you did that. I'm glad you added that.
Because I don't want anybody sitting out there thinking, that I got white privilege and whatever, right? There's no such thing as that. It's all baloney.
I see you posting your page, and that's very important. That I actually looked through your page thoroughly, so I know a lot. Without even meeting you, I got to learn a lot, how much as I could through social media. But I see your son, I see the progress, your lovely family, your wife, your kids. So, that lets me see the roots. So I get to know, and that's the problem. People always judge people by the branches. You need to know a person completely before you take a snapshot and just make all these claims or call somebody racist for their point of view. We can have different point of views and still be humans. That's okay to be different.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm glad you said that was beautiful. But so what I'm interested in, when I seen your book and everything, and I seen the extensive military. Like what guy who's a man wouldn't admire a guy that has this vast military career? I love all military movies, Arnold, even though they're not really realistic. But to read the person, I met a couple of people in my life that were special forces, but I didn't get to really see all about them. Like you have so many videos and things like that. So can we get a play-by-play of your military career or history?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually joined the Army in 1981, as I mentioned a minute ago, without my dad's consent. And but I did it. And here's what was funny is I wanted to go, and then the day it was time for me to go, my dad drove me down to basically to the bus station, and then I was going to go to Oakland to what they call MEPS for in processing. And I remember that's when reality kind of hit me, like, damn, I'm now leaving the nest for good, right? The den, and I'm going to be on my own. And
yes.
I no longer have mom and dad around to take care of me. I actually cried in the car, man. I was still like, what?
Okay.
I was like, what did I do, man? You know, but I got over it,
Yes,
and
yes.
you know, and I began the journey. So I started out. What ended up happening is I ended up in the 82nd Airborne Division, in an infantry company as a paratrooper, and then a long range reconnaissance scout. I hit the 4-year mark in the military. I was already married to my first wife, which is actually my son here. His mother, she's French Creole, Black and Indian, and so I married her, and then we had my daughter. And this was all in the first 4 years of my enlistment. And I kind of hit a point where I was like, do I want to stay in or do I want to get out? And be honest with you, I just didn't feel like I was being challenged anymore in the infantry. You know, it's like, how many times can you dig a hole just to fill it back up and sit under a tree and clean your M16, you know, for 3 days straight? And I just didn't feel like I was being, you know, challenged anymore. I just felt like, you know, just a machine. So I had a couple of options, right? I wanted to go to Special Forces, be a Green Beret, but then I thought, man, do I really want to go down that road, or I just want to go back to civilian life, you know? Because to be honest with you, you know, even at that age, you kind of miss high school, your friends, you know, and that life that you grew up in. I thought maybe I could go back to that. So it was a real simple answer. Actually, my mom answered me on that. When I called my mom one day, I go, Mom, think about getting out. Would you be willing to put up with me and my wife and my little baby girl for a while till I get on my feet? And her answer was no, not no, but hell no. so I said, thanks, Mom. You just fit. All right, you just gave me the answer. So, and at that point, I also got a recruitment letter from the Delta Force, right, saying that I was eligible to apply for the initial screening to perhaps try out for Delta Force. Didn't mean I was good enough or anything. It just meant that I met the minimum criteria if I was interested. So I decided, well, if I'm going to stay in, man, I'm going to shoot for the stars, man. That's it. I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to mess around here. So I did, and ended up hitting Delta Force, which what does that mean? So Delta Force is the most elite counter-terrorist unit in the world. People talk about Navy SEALs. Well, I can tell you, you know, we ate Navy SEAls for breakfast every morning. So, I mean, no pun intended, but we really did. I mean, it was, we trained these guys, but you don't hear much about Delta Force because they don't talk much about what they do, but they are probably the busiest special operations unit in the world, even in peacetime. So, and to give you a better perspective of what that means. So they canvass all the records. Now they canvass records of all military services and everybody that meets the minimum requirement, which is minimum GT score of 110, which is almost like a military IQ. They look at your IQ. They look at, have you had any judicial punishment before? What is your rank? It has to be a minimum of E5. There are all these things. If you meet all the criteria, then you're allowed to go and apply. And then you go through all these tests with the psychologist and physical fitness and background checks. If you pass all that, then you go through an assessment selection process, which is very physical. However, unlike SEALs or anybody else, it's an individual selection process. So you don't have a group that you're running around with carrying sandbags and logs with. You're on your own every day. You don't know what the standard of performance is. You're just told to do the best you can. You don't know when it's going to end. You don't have any idea how well you're doing. They don't encourage you. They don't discourage you. Nobody's yelling at you. Nobody's saying, attaboy. Everybody's stone faced. It's really bizarre how it works, but you're under tremendous stress, and all that stress is put on to you by you, right? Because it's the unknown that freaks people out. They don't, you know, and day in and day out, you know, the physicality of it, you know, the mental stress, the unknown, getting tired, you know, and you don't know how well you're doing. The attrition rate is extremely high, probably one of the highest ever in any organization, any military in the world. In fact, they run the selection course twice a year. The one I went through had 110 candidates. Normally it's 100. Of the 110 in my course, 6 guys finished and 3 of us were selected for assignment. So think about that. And I was the youngest at the time at 23 ever to get selected to be a Delta Force operator among men that usually get picked at the age of average age of 33. So gives you a little bit of perspective on that.
Yes.
So I made it to the unit, and I spent 10 years there. While I was there, I also went through the Special Forces qualification course to be a Green Beret, a light and heavy weapons expert. I went to school, came back, and went to the unit. And then eventually in 1996, I went to 3rd Special Forces Group. I became a team sergeant on an A team, right up until I retired out of the Army for a couple of years. And then from there, I got recruited by we'll call it OGA, the other government agency, we'll alphabet company, so I have to be careful what I say because I have signed non-disclosure agreements, but I spent 9.5 years with them as a paramilitary operative, essentially doing the same job I did in the military, but with, one or two other guys with me, and made a lot more money, of course. But it was almost more risky than anything I ever did in the military. When you're downrange with, two or three other Americans, maybe, and you got, anywhere from, 30 to 500 Afghans or Iraqis or Somalis or with you or whoever, and they're going out doing the bidding with you. It's a dangerous job. But I did that for 9.5 years, almost 10 years, and then in that course of that time, I also had started two companies. The first one I started pre 9/11, right when I retired, called Global Security Consultants. That company was bought in 2004 by G4S, Wackenhut. Then I reincorporated again to Risk Control Institute, which just was a virtual company then. And I sold it in 2011 to a company called Intrepid. And then basically they made an agreement with me. They said, listen, we want to hire you. We want you to work for our company. We know you work for OGA as well. But if I could help them secure a contract with Shell Oil, then they would buy my company and I could run my company under their umbrella. So it all worked out. I got them the contract with Shell Oil and they bought my company and I ran my company under their company. I resigned from the OGA and kind of did my own thing. And that's when I got discovered actually by Discovery Channel. They were the first ones that picked me up, and I wasn't looking to be on TV, but they picked me up. And about 7 months later, I got a call from NBC, said, listen, we have a TV show called Stars and Stripes. Would you be interested in trying out? I did. And I ended up on Stars and Stripes with Terry Crews. I became very good friends
with Terry Crews.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Friend. He's a very good friend.
I watched on your show. That's so cool.
Yeah. And so it was a huge opportunity for me because there was only 8 veterans that got selected out of a pool of, I think, like 6,000 applicants. And, and on that show, I got I really made, for me, it was a great opportunity because I got a lot of exposure. I got surrounded by a management team. I ended up being a poster boy for a production company. I became very good friends with Layla Ali, Muhammad Ali's daughter, Terry Crews, Kane. I go on and on with the list, but I made a lot of friends out there in Hollywood, producers, and started finding myself on a lot of TV shows and things like that as an actor, as a stuntman, as an advisor, military advisor. And finally, what happened was a couple of things happened. One, the company that bought my company, they went under. Not my company didn't go under. The umbrella company went under. So everything just kind of got sucked into a black hole. And I ended up kind of walking away. I ended up in Hong Kong running a protective detail for a multi-billionaire investment banker. I was told if I moved into Hollywood to Los Angeles, I could be on a set every day. And, I was told many times by producers, I could be the next Danny Trejo, right? Because I got the mustache and the scary look, I guess, and so, but for some, and there was no reason other than, the reality is this, that culture is not my culture. Hollywood, unfortunately, it's a very liberal culture. It's very anti-right, very anti-conservative. And it was crazy. I mean, for a lot of these people, I was the first veteran they ever met. And it was like finding a new puppy. Yeah. It's like finding a new puppy. Like, wow, what is this thing, And what do you mean it's a fight, it's in war and stuff like that. But just the attitudes, I felt, man, really, really out of place. And I thought, why do I want to be here and be, pretend to be somebody,
when you actually live it for real.
Yeah. Exactly. It wasn't a good fit per se. I didn't mind doing it kind of like, a part-time thing from opportunity time to time, but I realized it's not something I want to do all the time. And so I ended up, finally, what happened was after Hong Kong, I met my wife, my current wife. She was working in Hong Kong, and we moved to, she went back to Indonesia. That's where she's from. And I came back to U.S., and I ended up going back to Indonesia to see her. And then while I was in Indonesia, I'm looking around going, man, there's a lot of business opportunities here. And so I thought, well, how do I build the business here? And here's some things you got to keep in mind. Indonesia is, I think it's the largest now, or the second largest Muslim country in the world, 97% Muslim, right? And
I did not know that.
yeah. And so now here's the difference between Indonesian Muslims and Arab Muslims. Indonesian Muslims are very, very liberal, very open-minded. They don't give a crap that you're Christian or whatever you are. In fact, Indonesia only recognizes 4 religions, though, and it's Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, and Hinduism. Those are the 4, right? So, and everybody pretty much gets along over there. There's no drama about religion and things like that. And so what happened was I looked around and go, okay, I see some business opportunities. How do I build a business? How do I get ahead here? And the first step was get on the social media, and I joined some Indonesian Facebook pages. The first one was Tactical Indonesia. Got on there and said, hey, everybody, I'm Dale Comstock, the American Badass. I wrote this book, blah, blah, blah. How do you like me so far? No. And, and so through that process, I started meeting a lot of businessmen, and it was basically a law enforcement, military, airsoft page, but there were a lot of businessmen on there, and attorneys and things like that that were interested in that field. And so next thing you know, long story short, I was approached by a Chinese billionaire in Jakarta who wanted to be business partners with me. Anyways, he had an interest in starting a canine program. And at first I was like, I don't know about all that, right? But I've got a very long history about canines. I've been training canines for over 45 years. And but what he didn't want to do was, I said, look, you want me to be your partner, you're going to have to help me out here because I need some money every month. I need a place to live. I'm not going to do all this on my dime. You're the billionaire. And, and he wanted the lion's share of all the profits. And I go, you're going to have to do something. And he just couldn't get his head around it. I'm like, well, we ain't doing it then. So what happened was I met an American, a Green Beret in Jakarta also, that he's a security manager there. We partnered up and we started our own company called Strategic Outcomes Asia. And then, anyways, after the billionaire, he just heard about us, came back, oh man, you guys started your own company. I go, yep, don't need you after all. And now he wants to be business partners, right? And so he introduced us to all the important people in Indonesia. We kind of partnered up. He actually took advantage of me, and I decided one day to literally pack up all my belongings, my wife, some of my dogs, my motorcycles. We packed them in the back of 2 big police trucks because we were good friends with the local police. Yes. And they drove us all the way to Bali in the course of like 2.5 days. And we got down there and I literally found an office, found a place to live, and, planted tent pegs and raised a flag. And within 30 days, we were in business. And I started providing explosive detector dogs, narcotic dogs, patrol attack dogs for Marriott properties and the local venues. So
I see hundreds of pictures on your Facebook with the dogs. Amazing what you be doing over there and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. We had
started up that business that fast.
Yeah, we had a very unique business model. We actually, so I've got a lot of experience training dogs. So my dogs could actually find explosives. All the other companies over there were just faking the funk, so to speak. They were walking around the cars with their pets, going, "Look, explosive dog, pay me," And I came in and just blew them out of the water. We literally wiped out all the competition because they weren't licensed. We were licensed, and so on and so forth.
Basically, you knew your worth, you knew your value, you knew what you.
Absolutely. So I use that example. So I do a lot of coaching, right? Performance coaching. And I get a lot of people that come to me about business development, how to get started, and I use my example of going to Indonesia, where here I am, an American, okay, non-Muslim, and basically never been to Indonesia before. I show up and go, you know what? I'm going to start a business here. And, oh yeah, I'm going to use canines, and you guys are going to like it and support it, right? because basically Muslims don't like dogs. They think they're dirty, right? They love cats, but they don't like dogs, except for in Bali. Bali is Hindu. They're Hindu Indonesians. And they love dogs down there. You see a lot of what they call Bali dogs everywhere. And so it didn't matter. I basically decided I'm gonna break the code on how to start a business here. I'm gonna, and they make it very difficult for an expat to start a company in their country, right? Yes. But I worked it out, me and my wife, and next thing you know, we're in business. I got a little smart. I said, I'm gonna put everything in her name. She's an Indonesian woman, and so now she's like a superhero in Indonesia. It's like they call her Boss Canine because
That's cool.
yeah, she's the only Indonesian woman that has a canine security company, right? And so I taught her all the ropes, how to run. She actually trains our dogs, trains our handlers, manages everything, and up until the COVID hit, we had 65 canine handlers. We had 45 canines spread throughout Bali at different venues, running operations 24/7, 365. So, and I use that example of, mindset. If you really want to do something bad enough, there is a way. And the way has nothing to do with willpower. Okay. It has absolutely zero to do with willpower, has zero to do with philosophy. And, I don't want to call it a secret. It's not a secret. It's actually science. There's a science behind success, and that's kind of what I do with my coaching. And I don't want to leave people hanging out there, but it has to do with frequency, energy, electromagnetic energy. Okay, that's the science behind it. And if you understand that, and you know how to apply that, and you know how to shape that, you can do anything you want on the planet. And there's another thing that comes to play. It's called the law of action. It means you have to do something. Nobody's going to give you nothing. Okay, because the reality is nobody really wants to see you succeed except your parents. Right?
That's it. Your wife, that's it. Maybe.
That's it, man. That's the only ones that want to see you succeed.
Your kids. Yeah.
Your friends go, come on, dude, you can do it. And then they're thinking back, man, I hope he fails because if he's successful, it makes me look bad because, I'm not on his level anymore. That's the reality of it, man. You know that, right? So, don't count on anybody else for your success. Count on yourself. And in spite of, all the negative pushback, all the minefields that lay in front of you, stay focused on the objective, realize the dream, live the dream in your mind, see it, never let go of it, and you'll achieve what you want to do. And so that's one of my examples of success because of that mindset. So a couple other things. I was talking about my military background. So I, Delta Force, Green Beret, paratrooper. I worked for OGA as a paramilitary operative. I was also a mercenary, a legitimate mercenary, not Blackwater, nothing like that. But I was actually working for foreign governments that were friendly with the U.S. That were in alignment with our policies. And what I did is I worked for them as a professional soldier. I gave them a capability that they didn't have, but they needed, right? So I went downrange in probably some of the most dangerous places on the planet, and with a very small strike team, and prosecuted high-value targets that needed to be, removed from the planet of Earth. They're just bad people. So I did that concurrently with all the other stuff I've done. So I do a lot, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. As you know, I'm an author. I've written 3 books, including American Badass.
Great. What's the other 2? I want to get the names of the other 2.
Well, actually, the first one was my hand-to-hand manual for 3rd Special Forces Group. I wrote the manual because I developed the combatives program at the time. There was no combatives program, and then I wrote a manual to support that. That manual became the base document for the Army-wide hand-to-hand program. I still have one copy of it, and I do have PDF copies of it, and I'll send you a copy of the PDF.
Yes, I would love to have it, yes.
Yeah. So it was, it was published by the Army. Then I wrote American Badass, and then I wrote a book with my ex-wife, right? Actually, I wrote the book, and it was kind of an allegory, but I wrote it, I copyrighted it, I published it, and then I pulled it down because, we got divorce and a bunch of drama with that. So, but I'm actually in the process of writing several other books now about my experiences since I wrote American Badass 2011. And there's been quite a bit. I've got a lot of just, like stories that are almost unbelievable. And sometimes I wonder, how does it always happen to me? I find myself in these weird situations, but I do, man. I mean, I'll give you an example, a couple of hints. My mercenary time in Yemen. I'm writing a story about it. Very interesting stories, kind of a Jason Bourne twist to it. I was a bodyguard for a 31-year-old multimillionaire in Los Angeles. And it was better than the Bodyguard movie. I mean, there were a lot of twists and turns, had to do with gangs out of Chicago, and they stole $1 million worth of diamonds from her, and they threatened to kill her, and she fell in love with me, and it's
my goodness, it's really is a movie. They say real life is better than the movie.
Yeah, it's, and I'll be writing that story as well. And then there's another experience where I was literally, if you will, trafficking. So I'll give you the background. In the Middle East, if you were to say, I'm going to use Saudi, no, I'll use United Arab Emirates. There was a time there when, you know, it was very prosperous as an American to go there and start a company. There was a big boom. And then around 2010, everything just collapsed. And so a lot of expats over there, including Americans, they lost everything. They owed a lot of money to the local banks, you know, and there's a policy in the Middle East. If you owe money, what they do is they take away your passport, your visa, and you can't leave the country. And they keep you in the country. You can't work because you don't have a passport and visa, but you can't escape either until you pay your debts, right, which are huge for most people. So you're trapped in what's called a velvet cage, and with no way out, right? And all the surrounding countries have what do you call it? Laws of reciprocity, right? You're never going to escape. You're not going to get across the border. If you do, they're going to send you back. And I met this one particular fellow, a black guy too, former Army guy, went over there, and he actually was very, very successful. Started an HVAC company and a deep drilling company, and you know, was a multimillionaire. Did really well, and then bam, everything crashed. One of his kids was really sick. He had a huge medical expenses, and then when all this happened, he couldn't generate the money to pay his debt, and the government took away his passport right after his wife and kids literally escaped the country, and they actually went to England, and he couldn't get out of the country. And he's been there. He's still there. He's been there now about 8 years. He can't get out. He can't see his family. And there's no way out. And I ran across him by accident one day in a hotel bar. I just showed up in country, and I went to the bar to get something to eat. And I wear a lot of cowboy boots, right? Some very exotic boots. And this particular day, I was wearing these yellow Python cowboy boots. And he recognized him right away. He recognized me from Facebook. He walks over to me. He goes, "Hey, you're not Dale Comstock, are you? The American Badass?" And my first question is, well, why you want to know? Because I got to make sure it's a friend and not a foe, right? Because I noticed the boots. We got talking and exchanged phone numbers. And about a month later, he said, "Hey, when you coming back over here? I'd like to talk to you." And that's when I found out about his dilemma. And it wasn't just his dilemma. It's the dilemma of many that were there. And so I kind of got involved in, trying to help get these guys out of the country in a rat line, which was very, very dangerous and, very tricky to do because the Emirates have a very good surveillance system over there, extremely good surveillance system over there, and also a informant network. Okay, everybody's an informant. And so you screw up over there, you can get rolled up like that and be sitting in a jail cell next to the other guy. So I got a whole story about that. And then
that sounds like a movie right there. That's the situation.
It's crazy. And then I got another one where, so as you know, I'm a professional canine trainer as well. I had a guy from Singapore, very wealthy guy. He through another guy who heard about me. Anyways, he flew me to Singapore from Indonesia to train his German Shepherd dog. And he paid me good money to come over there and spend a week in Singapore training his dog.
Just one dog or a group? Just
one dog. Just one German Shepherd. It was his pride and joy. And it was a family dog. But the guy was very, very wealthy, man, super wealthy.
Gotcha.
And so that was no problem for him. I got to know him really well. And then, make a long story short. So his wife, without getting too much into detail, basically there was an Iranian that came from Turkey, came to Singapore, met his wife at an airport, put a knife in her, robbed her, stole, probably a watch worth $1 million, clean out the bank account, all kinds of weird stuff. Basically he had lied to her about her husband's activities. And now she didn't want to tell anybody. And then he robbed her again the next day. He didn't even leave the country. Right. And then now she figured she better tell. And then this turned into, the police got involved. They couldn't get the guy because he already left. There was no extradition. So this guy got away with a lot of money, and he went back to Turkey. But he's actually Iranian, but he did a lot of nasty work in Russia. And this guy asked me one day, he goes, "I know you do security stuff. I got a little dilemma. Maybe you can help me with it." So basically the mission was, so this Turkey guy he had all their phone numbers, access to the kids' phone numbers. He was literally threatening them with guns. "I'm going to come back and get you, this ad. Somebody else is going to get you." And so this whole family was in fear for its life. And so he wanted it taken care of, and that's where I come in, right? So I'll leave it at that. You want to hear the rest of the story, you'll have to read the book.
Yeah, that's right. You gave it up right there, but I'm gonna get that one. I'm gonna get every book you put out.
Yeah, it's in the works, man. But yeah, so there's a little bit about my experience. There's a lot more, but there's my military background, my commercial corporate background, and some of the stuff that I do that's just off center, man, that you would never expect. And actually, I don't expect it either. I just kind of fall into this stuff, and I'm like, I see an opportunity, I seize it. Okay, I'm trying to be smart about it though, but I want to go to jail.
Like you said in our correspondence, a lot about you. You're gonna be surprised, and you wasn't telling those stories. I am surprised. There's a lot I thought I knew, but it's awesome to get to even know all these other stories and more about you. It's incredible. Yeah. The one thing I wanted to ask you about, I remember you was talking about in another podcast about your martial arts background, and I remember you were saying as a family, like you got your family involved in it. Like, how did that go? And how did that help you out and affect your family? Like, since your family was learning with you.
Yeah, great question. So let me give a little backstory. So growing up, I started karate when I was around 13. My dad got me involved, and I got my green belt in Shotokan karate. And then we moved back to the U.S. I didn't pick it up anymore. When I joined the Army, I got interested in martial arts again, hand combat, boxing, things like that. So in the military, actually what really got me motivating, got me going is I like to train. I like to, hit the boxing, punching bags and stuff like that. In fact, as a teenager, around the age 14, 15, 16, when I lived in Sacramento, California, my dad, we left San Francisco and he decided to be an entrepreneur, right? So he started his own insurance business out of the garage, right? And so my whole garage was set up with like my dad's office and a gym. I had my little weights in there, punching bag and stuff. And I just I love boxing, right? And I always saw myself. I love Sugar Ray Leonard. That was my freaking boxing hero.
Oh,
right?
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and I would, yeah, and I always just dreamed about being like Sugar Ray Leonard as a pro boxer. That was really a childhood dream of mine as well, and I got pretty good at it. And then I joined the Army, and I trained with the guys and stuff, and I just had a yearning to get better at this martial arts stuff. So what really kind of got me around the corner was my son. I keep looking over to see if he's sitting here. He is. He probably doesn't remember this, but he was 4 years old. He was 4 years old, and he loved the Ninja Turtles, right? And all the karate that went with it. He was out in the front yard doing cheetah flips, And I asked him one day, I go, "You like karate, James?" And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "You want to do karate?" He goes, "Yeah." And so I took him to the YMCA, right, which was a joke. So we go there, and the guy's teaching karate. It was really a daycare. Parents would drop the kids off an hour, and this guy's trying to herd cats, right, all day long. Nobody's learning shit. And so I called a friend of mine. I said, "Hey, dude, can you make any recommendations?" He goes, "You got to go see this guy, Jim Smokey West." And by the way, he's all over the internet. He goes, "You need to go to his school." He's a former Green Beret, and probably one of the most dangerous fighters on the planet, hands down. So right away, I grab my son. We leave the class. We jump in the car, go to his studio. And when I walk in, there's all these kids my son's age out there beating the hell out of each other, right? They're getting it on, man. They got these plastic, wiffle ball bats, pads on. They're beating the shit out of it. They're having fun. And my son out in the mix, he's getting it on. They're having a good time. You like that? He's all happy, gritty. I mean, they love that stuff, right? And so I said, all right, this sounds a little bit more like what I'm looking for, and kids are actually learning how to fight, and they're mixing it up, and it's fun and it's safe. And so I said, okay, I asked my son, I go, I said, "You sure you want to do this?" I said, yeah. I said, here's the deal though. I said, when you start, you don't get to finish until you have your black belt. I don't care how long it takes. Agree? Yeah. I said, I'm going to hold you to it. You got to that black belt. It's going to be like school. You got to go. Yeah. And so I thought about it. I was like, damn, if I'm going to bring him to school every day, why don't I participate too, right? So I jumped in on it, and me and my son, and actually my oldest daughter, she got her second degree brown belt. But my son, by the time he was 7, got his first degree black belt. So, in 3 years, starting off at 4. And he continued on. So I've actually got my 6th degree. I've actually got 2 6th degree black belts and a 1st degree black belt through this training through Jim. So I went on much further, in life with this stuff. And And then that's where I also turned the corner on becoming a professional fighter. I was good enough as a kickboxer and a pro boxer to fight professionally. And so I actually fought one of the first MMA fights in Richmond, Virginia in 1996. They call it Valley Tudo, which is Portuguese for anything goes. It was basically a sanctioned street fight is what it was. It was 3 5-minute rounds. The gloves I were wearing were too big for me anyway, so all the pads were on the back of my hand, and my knuckles were basically, I was hitting the guy with leather, knuckles. And broke both my hands and put him out in a neck brace, and that's how actually MMA really got started in the U.S.
Yeah, I used to watch them early fights, so I know Gracie and all. Even before that, there was not too many rules.
No, and I actually trained with the Gracie brothers. I trained with Royce and Orion Gracie. Exactly. I trained with them in the early days of the UFC. Yeah. And so what happened? So my son, my daughter, me are doing martial arts. Their stepmother was involved, and it was a family affair. Moving on in life, then when I got married to my ex-wife, I got caught up in the whole bodybuilding thing, right? So at the age of 47, I decided I want to be a competitive bodybuilder. And one of the things that actually motivated me, which I did not know, was my son at the age of 22 had secretly joined a bodybuilding competition, right? And I saw pictures. I was like, what? That's my kid up there on stage, doing all that, looking pretty shredded. And so my wife and I started training, and then we decided, why don't all three of us do this together, right? So we started all training, dieting together, and we actually did our first show together down in Orlando, Florida. And I took 5th place in the heavyweight division. My son took 6th place in the heavyweight division, and my wife took 6th place in the figure fitness competition for women, right? So it became kind of a family affair. Now, here's a little funny story that goes with that. So 30 days out, we went into our bodybuilding, our dieting plan, right? Where we can what we call lean out diet, right? So you get rid of all excess fat, drain all the water out of you, and you're completely just shredded and show ready. And so it's a very strict diet, very few carbohydrates and fat. And for me personally, I didn't care about winning or losing. All I cared about was going out there with my family and doing this with my family, and have a good show, right? And so I was cheating. I was the guy eating chocolate chip cookies in the background, and getting caught. I'm like, okay, you got me, Everybody else was really, they were disciplined. Well, come day of the show, here I am. I placed 5th to get a trophy. I beat my son. He got 6th place. He didn't get a trophy. My wife got 6th place. She didn't get a trophy. And she's mad because I'm the guy eating chocolate chip cookies and I'm walking away with the trophy, right? So we're walking outside and we're all walking together. I can tell she ain't happy. And I'm holding this trophy. And I looked at my son. I go, here, I want you to take this. I go, here's the deal. I said, one day we're going to do another bodybuilding show, you and I. And I said, your mission is to beat me and give me my trophy back. That's the only way I want it back. You got to be better than me and give me my trophy back. There's no way I can go home with this tonight. I'll be sleeping on the doghouse, on the doghouse or in the doghouse.
That was a smart move.
So that was kind of, that was actually our first and last bodybuilding show together, but we did do more bodybuilding shows. I did. Yes. And my last one was at the age of 50. And so I'm 58 now, and I do have aspirations to get back into it maybe next summer. Hopefully things will settle down for me where I can, put more time into it. But again, we started out this podcast where I talked about the importance of, parenting and mentorship and, being, as part of a family, working together and participating in things together. Today, too many kids are off doing their own thing. They're Xbox, and mom and dad's got their own little goofy thing going on, right? And there's no unity there, man. And to me, that was very important. I thought, man, how cool is that? My son and I were going to karate practice with my daughter, and we were out there fighting. Dude, here's a great story. I can't leave this part out.
Yeah, tell it. So
when we trained with Jim West, he hardly produced any black belts and any fighters. He was like, look, I'm not wasting my time training a fighter if you're going to go out to be a crybaby, okay? He goes, and the only way you're going to get your black belt through him is you literally got to fight for it. And we don't mean like, sparring, point fighting. He meant like go out there and get it on, right? So the way we got our belts is we would go up to Virginia. There was a school up there, and essentially all the guys and girls that were going to get promoted in their class would have to fight me. It was actually just me and my daughter and my son. Okay. And basically we would go out there and, you know, we put on boxing gloves, and then we no gloves, just hardcore grappling. And it was a sanctioned street fight, closed doors, you know, you know, curtains drawn, and basically it was like, go, and whoever wins, it wins, you know. And I mean, it was literally sanctioned fights, street fights, right? And it didn't matter if you won or lost; it was your performance. And like when I fought the guy I had to fight, he actually was a 6th-degree black belt. Okay, and I was a 3rd-degree brown belt fighting for my black belt. And basically, it was like, you know, is basically a free fall. Go out there and kick his ass and see how you do. And I did. I beat the shit out of him right when it was all over, and I got my 1st-degree black belt. You know, and so it was no pity patter stuff. But you know, that's how we. You know, that's how we excel. That's how we got promoted. It was through combat. It was not through, you know, doing katas, kia. It was, what we learned was functional fighting, man, for the real world, you know, not, you know, fake stuff. Exactly. So, again, you know, when you get to do something like that with your kids, like I actually can still remember my daughter out there fighting with a black belt girl, and they're rolling all over the floor, just getting it on. It's a street fight, you know, and I'm seeing my daughter handle herself. I'm like, man, that makes you proud, you know, as a dad, you know, watching that, you know. And I mean, there's no better experience. I can't think of anything that was cooler than that. Seeing your kids alongside you, you know, developing themselves physically, you know, mentally, you know, developing that warrior mindset and spirit, and the competitive mindset, you know. And, you know, again, it goes back to what I said earlier, man, dads and moms, you guys got to step up. You got to step up. You know, there's no excuse. You got to step up, you know, period.
That's such a great message, man. I think that's so important. And, you know, that's why, and I see a common theme of the thing through your life with your family, you know, looking at your kids. And I think one of the important things is to identify kids' gifts and talents, and for people to motivate them to do something with it, or to direct them in life. You know,
yeah, absolutely.
A lot of young people don't have the direction, or even for parents to take the time to know their kids' gifts and talents, to actually direct them to something where they could use it.
Yeah.
You know, what their gifts are. Yeah.
And I think what's important too is, look, you can go, well, I'm not interested in physical fitness. I'm not interested in fighting. I'm interested in teaching my kids how to knit, you know, whatever. So, but I feel like this, man, if you really want to develop your kids, you have to physically and mentally challenge them. You have to put them through some stress and hardship to teach them how to endure that, right, and overcome it. Otherwise, there's no challenge. They're not really learning anything. You have to make them challenge themselves. You have to challenge them. And I found that it was like with my son, for example, when he was 12, 13 years old, I said, come on, James, we're going to go running. And I'd run him into the mud, man. He couldn't keep up with me. But it wasn't not long after that, he was running circles around me, right? And then we'd go to the gym and we'd work out, you know, and, you know, he couldn't bench press his own body weight. And now he's like a machine, man. You know, it's like, you know, but you have to challenge them too, right? It's not enough to go, well, we're going to go play golf together. Okay, yeah, you can make, you know, a Tiger Woods, if you will, no problem. But there's got to be a challenge to make so that they can grow. There's got to be life lessons in this process, to include failing a lot, because that's how they learn, right? Failing is learning. And if your kids aren't being challenged to where they fail or get punched in the nose, you know, or they miss a golf swing or whatever, stick themselves in the finger with a needle, they're never going to learn. And so these are fundamentals, I think, that are essential. It doesn't matter where you come from, what ethnicity, your culture, whatever. And there's too much of that lacking today. And, you know, people just got to get their kids off of Xbox, get them out of the freaking house, you know, take them outside, roll around the grass with them and wrestle with them. You know, whatever it takes, man, go jogging with them. It's good for you. It's good for them. But we're missing that today. We're missing that bad. Yeah.
Very true. My cousin is a professor, historian. He was talking just about that same thing you mentioned, like back in history, like almost every culture that existed, when a boy was transitioning into a teen and into a man, he couldn't just go say, I'm a man. There was some kind of trials he had to pass in that code. Like almost everywhere around, my cousin showed me, it was like In them time periods, they had to do something. You say, all the men, I want to take a wife. No, you got to do this. You got to do that. You got to climb this mountain. You got to swim this lake. It was something, trials that they had to go through to say you're a man.
A rite of passage. It's a rite of passage.
That's like not here today. That's not present today.
Right.
But teens got to prove themselves.
The rite of passage is missing, right? We just, you know, I got to be careful how I say this, I guess. So I have a friend whose son is 18 years old. He's already married. Okay. Never worked a day in his life. And so I'm working for a friend of mine's construction company. I'm helping him out a little bit, you know, while I'm here in the States, just kind of chilling out. I'm learning about construction on top of everything else I do. So I'm always learning, man. I'm a perpetual student. And I know I could help him out. So I'm out there doing some work, and all of a sudden his stepson, he's going to give him an opportunity. This kid probably didn't last a week, you know, and he was about as lost as last year's Easter egg. You know, I mean, really, he didn't know where he was at, what he to do. And, you know, and he was actually very soft. His priority was ready for this designer underwear. He was bragging about how he pays $20 for a pair of underwear, and I was laughing at him. All the construction guys were laughing because all the construction guys were either veterans or cons, ex-cons.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean designer? Why are you even wearing underwear? You know, we don't wear underwear. You know, I mean, who pays $20 for something that nobody's going to see? But the priorities were all wrong, right? And it's not just him, and it's not. Part of it is, you know, I learned a little about him and his actually his real dad, and you know, the parenting wasn't there, the mentorship wasn't there, the father didn't, you know, lead the son. In fact, from what I've heard, he locked him in his room, put a lock on the outside so he can get it out, you know, just stuff like that, you know, and you know, fathers are just failing left and right, you know, and fathers are not leading by example, and mothers are not leading by example either. You know, actually the problem with mothers, they coddle their boys too much now. They're over nurturing.
Yes.
You know? My mom would beat the hell out of me with a wooden cook spoon, you know, and my dad beat the hell out of me with an army belt. You know, I got the beat. Yeah, you know what? And I'm no worse for the wear. I'm not a criminal. You know, I've never been in trouble. You know, but you know, it definitely kept me walking in a straight path, and maybe limping a little bit on my butt. But you know, it taught me a lesson. You know, it kept me focused, and you know, I'm grateful for that because I didn't turn out. I don't think I turned out to be some kind of a, you know, I did become a badass, but not in the sense of badass, but more in the good ass, right?
I gotta ask this question though, being that you brought up the badass. How did you? Because it's so interesting of a story. When I heard you tell it, how do you get your nickname, the American Badass?
Yeah, so it was a moniker that was kind of bestowed on me on the show Stars and Stripes, right? So interesting story. So I did not know, none of us knew we were going to be paired up with any particular stars, right, for the show. What was going to happen was we were out in the desert, and me and the other seven veterans were kind of standing out there lined up a certain way. And what was going to happen was 2 helicopters were going to fly in with all the celebrities on it. Terry Crews, Layla Ali, Dean Cain. I mean, there was 8 people on there, right? Todd Palin, Sarah Palin's husband. And so what they wanted to do is, for the betterment of the show, they wanted to capture, you know, the surprise looks on everybody's face, like, oh my God, you know, and the whole thing is going to be a one-time deal. And so what was her name? Samantha Harris, the host for Dancing with the Stars. She was the host for us, along with, what's his name? General, man, damn, I can't believe I forgot his name right now. But anyways, what they wanted us to do was, when these guys landed, they got out and they would line up facing us on the other side of the field. And it was almost like, you know, the gangs of New York facing off on each other, right? And they were all looking at Gary, you know, and they're looking at us and we're looking at them. And then what they wanted to do was have each one of us introduce ourselves. And so, you know, they went down like, you know, Brent Gleason, you know, United States Navy SEAL, you know, and then they came down to me, and I still remember what I said. I go, retired. I said, retired Master Sergeant Dale Comstock, United States Army, the Delta Force. And all the guys in the background were going, American Badass, American
Yeah,
Badass.
yeah.
And that's how the moniker caught on, was
Yeah.
American Badass, right?
The name fits, man. The name fits. I tell you. That's what I thought when I seen all this. I was like, "Dad, this guy is a badass."
Well, what compelled me to write the book though was so Chris Kyle, the American Sniper, was on the set also,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know Chris until I got on the show with him. And I saw his book, American Sniper. I go, damn, Chris, I didn't know you wrote a book. He goes, yeah, he goes, well, I didn't really write. I had a ghostwriter, but he goes, but yeah, because I want to read your book, though. And he was 32 at the time. I was 47, 48. He goes, I want to grow up to be like you. And I'm like, damn. And so I turn around, got my phone, and I call my management team. I go, hey, we got to write a book, right? But I'm thinking, I don't want to write a book about all the people I shot and all the war stuff, you know. I said, I want to write a book, an autobiography, but I want to use my life stories to really to mentor young men. That was my goal, mentor young men in America to be better versions of themselves, better citizens, better soldiers, better, fathers and brothers and so forth and so on. That was my goal. And I want to use my life stories to do that, to motivate and inspire. I tell people all the time that my book, American Badass, is not about me as much as it's about you. If you can understand that, right? When you read it, you start learning things and you start thinking about yourself and, about your life and where you are and where you could be. And my book is not about, I did everything right. I'm perfect. What's your problem? My book was like, there's a lot of humility in there where I really screwed up. And I don't mind telling people that because I'm just human. I'm just a man. I'm a human being, an ordinary man with an extraordinary, life. That's it, And so that's how I came up with the book, and I needed a title. I thought, well, why not call it American Badass? And then I got the picture on there with me with the chain and no shirt on, I'm all yoked and stuff. And that was deliberate as well. And the reason why was I wanted people to look at the book and go, what the hell is this? This guy like a convict or something? And the old story, the old adage, don't judge a book by the cover. I wanted people to look at it and then go, and then read the back. And when they see Senator Alan West, his testimonial and some of the other guys on there, and they start flipping through and go, wait a minute, this is not all about being a badass. It's actually more about being a good ass, a good citizen, a good soldier. And so that was the whole idea on the book. So actually Chris Kyle kind of got me, he gave me the kick in the butt I needed to get her done. And I actually wrote the book in 6 months, which is like
6 months.
Yeah. It's like world record, man. I actually wrote it in 3 weeks. But by the time I could get it edited and all the stuff that goes with it, the book cover, copyrighted, and
yes.
I actually published it July 4th, 2012 is when it got published. So I did.
You published it yourself?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes better sense than getting it published. Though you get most of the money back. Yeah, that makes
exactly. You can only find the book on Amazon. So I didn't go through any publishing companies. I'm doing it through Amazon, and most of the royalties are mine, but now what I just do is, I just sell the PDF copies for like $5.99, and but people do want signed copies of the book. So I've got a stack coming in. I don't know where they're at yet, but I do keep them on hand for people that want them. I'll autograph them, or they'll order it and have it shipped to me, and then I'll sign it, and then I pay for the postage to send it back to them, that type of thing. I'm not here trying to make money off the book, I'm not making a lot of money off of it. I mean,
sadly, but it's very valuable. The message that you're getting across is extremely valuable.
Yeah.
So I mean, especially for young boys and men, like you said, teens today, that's an extremely powerful message. That's awesome. I can't read.
And the other thing about books now, right, is people don't want to read books anymore. Okay, nobody wants to read. Right? They want it hot and now. They want audio. They want to listen to podcasts and stuff like that. So now I'm actually focusing on podcasts, right? That's where I'm getting a lot of attention is through the podcast. I just did one not too long ago. You saw that one, Combat Story.
Yes, it was excellent.
4 months ago, it's 180,000 views, and I'm getting people from all around the planet, literally all around the planet, including last night I had a guy he's from Macedonia, interested in coaching and bettering himself, blah, blah, blah. So I got a big reach. And it works out for me because for my other business, my coaching business, it's good. But I'm making I think a good impression, not just on Americans, but on a lot of young men globally. Which
around the world, yeah.
I don't get any. I don't get any girls. They don't come to me. They don't get, I guess I'm too scary. But, I do get, my demographics are men and women between 45 and 55, men between 20 and 26 that want to go into the Army, military, special forces.
Yes.
Then the third demographic is entrepreneurial men between 32 and 37 that come to me. Those are my three demographics. And the only women that come to me are between 45 and 55. And, they've reached that midlife crisis and they're trying to figure out how to recapture, recover the past now that the kids are gone. And they look in the mirror and go, holy cow, I'm like 100 pounds heavier. What do I do? Help.
Yes. Yeah. What would I do in my life now? Now I got time. What do I do?
It's right.
Time to focus on myself. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I think you like you said, you make the interview easy. You pretty much covered all the questions that I had during the interviews. And, I like to say from all the people in the body of believers, all the kids I work with, they're going to work with, I really am honored and I appreciate you really doing this and sharing that message because me and my team is going to get on social media and try to spread it as much as we can, humanly possible. And I know it's going to reach a lot of people, help a lot of people, men and women, but especially these boys and teens that I'll be working with and get it to them. And I really can't even express how grateful I am to you. It was an awesome interview. I loved it. I mean, you had such a powerful message, man. I wish you all the best and success and everything and keep on going, brother. And I'm going to keep on fighting the good fight on my side. And I think this is the start of a great relationship.
Yes, sir. And let me just add something here, man. So my business partner, besides my oldest daughter, she does all my, the websites and promo stuff. She's very good at it. My other business partner, our other business partner is Joe Tedeye from Dual Survival Discovery Channel. And so he's a good friend of mine. I've known him since 2003. And so he is my partner and he's very well accomplished. He's got quite the resume as well. And we're actually partners. And what we're doing is developing a youth program. Our goal is between me and him, not just reaching, men that are, especially guys our age that, look, I coach a lot of guys that are my age and they literally got one leg in the grave. They can't do a couple push-ups, they're just a mess. Right. But we also want to focus on, younger men, right? Teenagers, because we feel like, okay, if we can get to them and change their mindset, then we can actually help produce what we think are going to be the next generation of, of great Americans, great warriors, guys with the right mindset. Because right now, these kids, like I said, they're as lost as last year's Easter egg. They have no guidance, no direction. Their heroes are, whatever, musicians. And then, it's like, who are you guys following? That's their heroes. And, we want to show them that there's actually men out there that hopefully we're the embodiment of, masculinity. I know everybody's like toxic masculinity. Well, there's no such thing as toxic masculinity, right? What a toxic masculine male is? He's the guy that's insecure, that likes to beat his wife and kids, right? That's a terrible person, right? He's a bully. That's a toxic masculine male, right? I'm not a toxic. I am a man, and I can back up anything I say and I can do anything I want to do, but that doesn't make me toxic. That makes me a man. Okay. And there's no such thing as toxic masculinity. And if there is, the only person I would attribute that to are the terrible men that are out there, right? The bullies, the bad guys, the crooks, the thugs, the wife beaters, the kid beaters. Those are the toxic males. So, what we want to show young men is there's a way. And I do mentor and coach a lot of young guys, very young guys. In fact, I was telling my kid today, I'm coaching a kid right now. He's 20 years old, looks just like my son. I was laughing. I go, holy cow, dude, you look just like my son. He's great shape. And he wants to go in the military and basically go into special forces. He's half black, half white. And, I like helping guys like that. I like helping get guys going down the right path. Whatever he does with his life later on, hopefully I give him enough tools. And I've kind of framed his way of thinking to be successful so he doesn't end up in jail, but he ends up in a great place in life and being successful and happy, and actually becomes a contributing member of society rather than, the drudge of society, so one of the dredges, of society. So, yeah. So I'll put that out there as well. We're offering that later on. And I've considered doing is, you think about this. If you ever have an opportunity where you're like, hey man, we do online is what we do coaching. So like,
okay, got you.
Right. If we can get, I don't care what, 10 kids, 100 kids, men, women, boys, girls, put them all together. We can actually do coaching sessions via Zoom. Right. It's just almost like in person where we can actually help teach, mentor, ask questions and things like that. And as a group, it doesn't cost anybody anything for the most part, whereas if I teach one guy, it's not a lot of money, but for most people it is a lot of money. Right. But as a collective, it's very inexpensive and you get the same trainings and everything that you would get if we just did one-on-one at a fraction of the cost. So
yes, with the Zoom and technology and everything. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So,
that is so cool, man.
That's my mission in life, and, I always start off with everybody I meet that wants to evolve. Is my first question is, what is your purpose in life? And I would ask the kid that, what is your purpose in life? And they always give me the cheesy answer. Well, my purpose is to be a good person, help everybody, and do wonderful things for them. I'm like, yeah, but what is your purpose for you in your life, right? We all want to be good people and help people, but what do you want to do for you, And then my second question is, what do you want your legacy to be? At the end of the road, when you look back, think of this: you're writing your own movie script, and you're going to be your own hero in your own movie. And when you're done at the end of the movie reading the credits, how do you want to think about your movie? Go, yeah, that was badass. I really am James Bond. Or whatever. And what do you want your kids and your family and your grandkids to say about you? Later in life. So, what's your purpose? Your compass heading, your azimuth, your direction, where you want to go in life? What's your objective? Right? You have to develop that. The sooner, the better. Right. And most people don't do that. They have no idea.
No, they don't. Even in their 40s and 50s, a lot of people don't have that idea what their purpose is, like you said.
And statistically, 98% of the population never live the dream, never live the ideal. They never become the person they dream of being. They're all over the map. Only 2% in the world. The Bill Gates.
That's where that comes from. You said 2%. 2%. That's where that comes from. Okay.
That's right. Are living the dream. Okay. I live the dream. I live in Bali. I live in Florida. I make my own life, my own way. I don't have a boss. I do what I want, when I want, where I want, with who I want. I have ultimate freedom, right? Because I created this freedom for myself. I'm living the ideal life. Okay. Nobody gave it to me. I stayed focused on what was important. I didn't let, challenges stop me. Well, most people think they're problems. I changed my mindset. It's not a problem. It's a challenge, and I will overcome. I'll stay focused on, my purpose, and I'll reach my objective. Too many people give up because, this is hard. This is not for me, right? They don't have no commitment to it. And then basically they get dissuaded. They wander off on another path. And basically they're walking all over the woods for the rest of their life in a big daggone circle and wondering why they never got out of the woods and why they never reached the top of the mountain because, they don't have that purpose, man. So that's got to be established, and
early as possible, like you said.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So anyways, hopefully everybody gets something out of this. I appreciate you having me on. And
no problem, man. I appreciate it. I'm very excited. I'm very excited. So do you got any plugs or websites or anything you want to plug in before?
Yeah, probably the best way to connect with me is through Instagram, Dale Comstock, American Badass, or Facebook, although I'm trying to get away from Facebook. It's become too, I actually hate to say it, but it's become very fascist. They become everything that they say that they're not. They want, it's crazy, right? And so you can still find me on Facebook. And you can also find me on tier1performancecoaching.com. Okay. You can reach me there and Joe through that and my daughter through that, through emailing. And then you can also look me up on Dale Comstock on Wixit, WIXIT.com. I have a personal website as well, right? So those are basically the easiest ways to get a hold of me.
Yes. And again, my brother, I thank you so much. I really appreciate it for the opportunity. And I look forward to meeting you again, maybe interviewing you again down the line.
Absolutely.
And, get this out here and rolling. Maybe I'm going to send you some video clips of me using this video and showing kids and things like that. So, just keep strong and keep fighting. And I will, too, on my end, like you said. Yeah, it's just so powerful of an interview.
Appreciate
I am
it.
really excited to get to it and get sharing this. I'm gonna call everybody, get to sharing this immediately.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you
anytime,
very
man.
much, brother. I'm gonna
And
get ahead
thank
and
you.
end